So here's part two.
All right. So Chris, what does John Fetch go for here? What does he fit into the welterweight title picture?
The thing with John Fitch is that he really hasn't fixed his style of control, um, and that really hurts him in the welterweight title picture. Um, what I mean is that he'll wrestle a guy down. He doesn't do a lot of ground and pound, and he doesn't really go for the kill on the ground, and that's really hurt him as far as the welterweight title picture. Um, you just don't see much anything different with John Fitch that makes you believe that he can beat GSP. I mean, it's pretty much the same guy, except, I don't know if it's been a year or two later. I forgot. But that's the thing. When they first fought, GSP dominated, both on the feet and on the ground, and, in the wrestling department. I failed to see what John Fitch could really offer differently in a second fight. I see that he'd have to probably beat one or two other guys at welterweight to get a title shot. I'm guessing GSP is probably going to beat Koscheck. So, and I personally don't really want to see GSP Fitch too. I mean, I do feel that Fitch deserves it, but at this time, and from what I've heard from other fans, I really don't think fans are really asking for that fight. As far as where he can go next, he can get the winner of Carlos Condit versus Dan Hardy. That would be a very interesting fight. Dan Hardy versus John Fitch. Good fight. I think Fitch would win by control. I think he'd actually do the same to Carlos Condit. Jake Shields is fighting Martin Kampmann. I see the winner of that fight actually getting a title shot. But saying that the winner of that doesn't, that person against John Fitch would be a very interesting fight. He can also fight some other guys that are up there. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight, like, say, the winner of Matt Serra versus Chris Lytle. I think that's really interesting. He Serra is always dangerous, no matter how old he might be. And Chris Lytle, crafty veteran. I probably wouldn't want to see that fight just because, like, Lytle pretty much is a gatekeeper. So I wouldn't do that. But Matt Serra, John Fitch, very interesting. Also, John Hathaway is fighting Mike Pyle soon, and the winner of that fight versus John Fitch would be a very good fight. Hathaway's really coming up these days, and John Fitch would be a good test. I don't think they'd actually give it to him because Fitch has a way of derailing guys to the title, but it would still be a really interesting fight. Hathaway's a very hungry fighter, as seen when he beat Diego Sanchez. Mike Pyle versus John Fitch would be actually pretty interesting if Mike Pyle beats John Hathaway. It's jiu-jitsu guy. I'm pretty sure they've actually fought. I think they fought before actually too. So that'd be also really interesting as well.
What does Diego Alves go for here? Should he stay at welterweight or move up to middleweight?
Yeah, the thing with Thiago Alves is that he's missed weight at welterweight a lot. Joe Rogan said it best. You do not need pecs that big. And I have to agree. Honestly, he does. He looks a little drained at times, especially in this fight against John Fitch. He looked pretty drained. And, but I think he can make the weight on a consistent basis if he has the right diet and whatnot. He's made 170 before against, like, Josh Koscheck and in his title fight against GSP. The thing is, too, he's also really short for middleweight, so I can't really see him moving up. I mean, he's a really big guy, but he just doesn't have the physical, physical tools like his reach and his size to really do that well and have an advantage in that division. He would actually be at a huge disadvantage. Interesting fights for him, though. I'd also I'd also like to see him against winner or loser of Dan Hardy versus Carlos Condit. I still feel that Thiago Alves is the number 3 welterweight out there. So seeing him against one of those guys, very interesting fight. I would probably see a lot of stand-up if he either fought Hardy or Condit. Same as Fitz, you can have John Hathaway versus Thiago Alves. Good fight. Hathaway is really improving, and it'd be a good test. Thiago Alves would be a good test for Hathaway. And it's a winnable fight. Paulo Thiago versus Diego Sanchez is happening, and the winner of that fight versus Thiago Alves would make a lot of sense, actually. Both of those guys at one time were scheduled to fight him, and Paulo Thiago, he's pretty much a top 10 welterweight. Very interesting fight if he ever fought Thiago Alves. Diego Sanchez, if he can get back in his groove and go back to being that really crazy, super energetic welterweight that we used to see back in the day, he'd have a really interesting fight against Diego Sanchez as well. Against Thiago Alves as well, my bad. But also, if Matt Serra beats Chris Lytle, Serra versus Thiago Alves would actually be really interesting. I would actually really like to see that fight. They're both close to the same height, and I just think both of them are quote unquote pit bulls in a sense, and I think those two can have a good fight as well.
Right. Where does Matt Hughes go from here? Is he still relevant in today's welterweight division outside of his name value?
Well, the thing with Matt Hughes is that he's still actually pretty good. I mean, he just had a big win over Ricardo Almeida, and before that, he got a split decision win over Matt Serra. So he's beating solid guys still, actually. Skill-wise, he's not... he's still pretty good. He's still very strong, as you can tell by his front headlock choke that he did on Ricardo Almeida. It was typical Matt Hughes to do something like that, actually. He's been striking more, too, so he has been improving his skill set. But as far as relevancy, I don't think he'll ever get a title shot, per se, but I think he can still hang with some of the top, the top 10 guys out there and be a good test for some and still beat him. If John Hathaway fought Matt Hughes, interesting fight. I'd probably choose Hathaway over Hughes. Younger, just more energetic, very strong guy. You can even do like a Rory McDonald maybe, young guy. I don't think Rory McDonald would actually beat Matt Hughes. I think Matt Hughes would just take him down and control him pretty well. But even if Dan Hardy or Carlos Condit fought Matt Hughes, really interesting fight, Hughes is still a factor. He can still take you down. And it's tough to say if he can really hang with the young guys, because obviously he did lose to Thiago Alves, but Alves came in way overweight. And a lot of people are using that fight as a reason why he can't hang with the young guys. But say if Matt Hughes fought like John Fitch, very interesting fight. I don't know whose game plan would win over Hughes. Whose? The thing is, they're kind of the same fighter in a way, and so interesting fight. Mike Swick versus Matt Hughes would also be pretty interesting. You can see if Swick can defend a takedown or not. I think Swick might be going back to 185, but if he's staying at 170, then he could definitely be a good fight for Matt Hughes. I think Swick has better hands, but who knows if he can defend a takedown or not. As far as the fight, I think that will happen. Earlier that night on prelims, Dennis Hallman beat Ben Saunders by decision, and Matt Hughes has lost twice to Dennis Hallman. I think it just makes sense for Hallman Hughes number 3. I think that's probably where they're going, even though Hallman's not a big name, but there is kind of a Matt Hughes retirement tour going on, and I just feel that this fight makes sense for Matt Hughes, per se. Not necessarily for the UFC or the welterweight division, but just for Matt Hughes himself, it kind of makes sense.
Okay. So where does Ricardo Almeida go from here?
Well, the thing with Ricardo Almeida is that he does have weaknesses in wrestling, and his striking still needs some work. I do feel he was out striking Hughes for a while, but then he got tagged. He got dropped. He got dropped to his butt, and they got choked out. He had a really good win against Matt Brown, so it's not like he can't beat that mid-tier division. But as of right now, because he lost to Hughes, I don't think he should be fighting like the top 10 right now. Maybe a fight with like Chris Lytle. I don't think he'll ever fight Matt Serra, but it'll still be an interesting fight. Roy McDonald, that would be a really interesting fight. Rick Story just beat Justin Hazlett. Rick Story, Ricardo Almeida. I think that would be pretty interesting. I mean, Rick Story is really coming up, but I still think it's still a good fight for Rick Story. Ellenberger just beat John Howard. Heck, even John Howard versus Almeida would be pretty good too. Ellenberger versus Ricardo Almeida would be pretty interesting too. Ellenberger being a wrestler, Ricardo Almeida being primary jiu-jitsu guy. Be very interesting to see how that fight goes. I think that Ellenberger might be able to drop him though in the stand-up. So, but yeah, there's a lot of fights for Ricardo Almeida still. Actually, he's not. I mean, I consider him in the mid-tier right now of the welterweight division. I thought for a while he might be in title contention, but I think with this loss it really brings him down, and he needs to build up some wins again. Okay, so just go to part 3 after the jump. Thanks.